Alors, merci à tous pour nous joindre à nous aujourd'hui pour notre dîner-conférence virtuel CDÉNÉ durant cette semaine des petites et moyennes entreprises 2020. Je m'appelle André Leblanc et je dirige l'équipe des services en affaires et en entrepreneuriat du Conseil de développement économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Thank you all for joining us today for our virtual lunch and learn during Small Business Week 2020. My name is André Leblanc, and I manage the Small Business and Entrepreneurship team for le Conseil de développement économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse, the CDÉNÉ. Cette année, le thème de la 41e semaine des petites et moyennes entreprises est particulièrement adapté aux conditions qui ont touché tous les propriétaires d'entreprises rurales en Nouvelle-Écosse. Entreprenons l'avenir. So this year, the 41st Small Business Week's theme is particularly fitting of the conditions that have impacted all rural Nova Scotian business owners, forging the way forward. J'ai déjà partagé au lancement de cette semaine de célébration que nos entrepreneurs ruraux ont toujours fait preuve d'innovation et de résilience. Et pendant cette crise sans précédent, ils continuent de s'adapter, de se positionner pour réussir. Ça étant dit, les entreprises qui produisent du succès grâce à l'industrie du tourisme sont durement touchées par l'impact de la pandémie. Et nous voulons partager aux entrepreneurs de ce secteur, merci pour votre persévérance dans ces temps difficiles. I've already shared at the launch of this week's business celebrations that our rural entrepreneurs have always been innovative and resilient. And during these unprecedented times, this crisis at hand, they continue to adapt and position themselves for success. That being said, businesses that produce success through the tourism industry are being hit hard by the impact of the pandemic. We want to share with those entrepreneurs, those business owners within this sector, thank you for your perseverance in these difficult times. La Semaine des petites et moyennes entreprises a pour but de célébrer la contribution des petites et moyennes entreprises dans nos communautés rurales et nous rappelle une fois de plus à quel point qu'elles sont importantes. Environ 99% des entreprises au Canada sont des petites entreprises et cela, ça souligne encore une fois de plus l'importante contribution apportée à la durabilité de nos économies rurales. Cela étant dit, je voudrais vous présenter Terry Smith, le PDG de Destination Cap-Breton. C'est un spécialiste du marketing et de la stratégie de marque, spécialisé dans l'industrie du tourisme. Un conférencier invité de nombreux colloques sur les thèmes du tourisme, du marketing et de la stratégie de marque. Un professionnel qui s'intéresse sincèrement à la compréhension des défis et à la recherche des solutions sur mesure pour répondre aux besoins. Small Business Week is about celebrating the contribution of small businesses in our communities. And again, we are reminded of how important they are. Approximately 99% of businesses in Canada are small businesses. And this highlights again the important contribution made to the sustainability of our rural communities. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Terry Smith, marketing and branding strategist and the CEO of Destination Cape Breton. He specializes obviously within the tourism industry. He's a featured guest speaker at many conferences on the topics of tourism, marketing, and branding. He's a professional with a genuine interest in understanding challenges and tailoring solutions to best fit the needs. Terry, over to you.
Well, merci. Bonjour tout le monde. Je m'excuse, mais je parle juste un peu de français. Donc, je dois continuer en anglais. That's about the extent of my French. So, my apologies. So, I will share my screen. Everyone can see that, I hope. All right. So, yeah, with Destination Cape Breton, we are the official destination marketing organization for Cape Breton Island, and in that capacity, we do work closely with our Acadian regions here, we actually have representation from both regions on our board of directors. So that your community would be well represented there. I just wanted to start off by giving you a little snapshot of the way things used to be. So this is just a look at what the picture was from 2009 to 2019. So we were seeing some really strong growth. Room nights sold, we saw increased 28% on an annual basis over that period. Visitation to Cape Breton Highlands National Park increased. Cruise traffic was increased to the Port of Sydney. The Celtic Colors International Festival was really growing. And it continues, actually. We just found out a couple of weeks ago that we were named #1 island in North America by Condé Nast Traveler. And back in the spring, actually the early summer, we were named #1 island in Canada by Travel and Leisure for the 3rd year in a row. So all of that grew the industry to the point where we had 5,600 people working in it, approximately 750 businesses, and an estimated over 420 million in tourism revenues per year. So things were going well, and then 2020 hit us and everything changed, as you know. So as an organization, a lot of things were not really in our responsibility, but we found that there was a need to respond to our industry. So during the COVID-19, when it first started, we focused on 4 key areas: industry communication, providing good information to our industry in terms of what was happening and what supports were out there; advocacy for the industry, working through our partners with the Tourism Industry Association of Nova Scotia and the National Tourism Industry Association of Canada, and some contacts that we have with the provincial government and federal government. We did a fair bit of contingency planning, listening to what experts were saying on the impact and the recovery, and adjusting our plans. And then we embarked on a few short-term initiatives as just a way to support the industry during the shutdown. So these initiatives included, we launched Cape Breton Takeout.ca, which is still operating, not used near as much as when it was during the shutdown, but basically a website that included food operators around the island that were offering takeout services, so that everyone had a one-stop shop place to go to know where they could get takeout food. We also did a gift card campaign called Give the Gift of Tourism, where we encourage people to buy gift cards from operators to support them, like providing birthday gifts, things like that. And we also did, during the month of May, we did a promotion called 30 Days of Thanks, where we thanked essential service providers. We asked people to nominate people in their community, and we provided gift cards to 30 of these essential service providers from tourism operators around the island. So in that small way, we provided a little bit of revenue at a time when there was no revenue coming in for some operators. And I heard from one operator at the Clarestone Inn in Arishat that by getting a gift certificate for somebody, that it helped her pay her internet bill for that month. So anything's was a good thing for operators at that time. So I mentioned contingency planning. So we looked at different scenarios, and I won't get into this, but basically we ended up planning for scenario B, and then that was what was announced, which essentially was initially opening to Nova Scotia and then opening up to the rest of Atlantic Canada. The issue with that for Cape Breton Island specifically, if you look over on the left side of this, this chart shows where our visitors come from compared to the overall, the visitor breakdown for the province overall. So if you look at Atlantic Canada, you can see that in a normal year, we only get 23% of our visitors from within the region, whereas the rest of the province gets almost half their visitors from within the region. So we rely very heavily on visitors coming from outside. They would be 77% in a normal year. And those visitors tend to stay longer and spend more. So even if we doubled, tripled, or quadrupled the number of regional visitors, it wasn't going to be the same from an economic standpoint. And we understood that and advised operators to plan accordingly. But looking at this eventuality that we have this Maritimes market and a bubble, we wanted to put our best foot forward and try to drive as much business as we could. So we took a look at what the research told us for the Maritimes. We know that they're interested in the Cabot Trail, outdoor adventure, historical experiences like the Fortress Louisbourg, Gaelic culture was high on their list as well. We knew that from a demographic standpoint, we had empty nest couples and young adults. We knew what channels those two groups looked at for the most part. And we also knew that for the most part, this market knew Cape Breton. They've visited before, and their average length of stay, whereas I mentioned with so many visitors coming from outside the region, our average length of stay to the island is 5.7 nights. Well, for Nova Scotians, it was 3 nights and a little bit higher for New Brunswick and PEI. So they would be focusing on weekends, long weekends, and hopefully we'd be able to encourage them in some cases to take like a week-long summer vacation. In terms of the experiences, so we had to look at what they were interested in, but also what was going to be open and able to be offered to them safely. So it started with the Cabot Trail, outdoor experiences, and culinary. We eventually added culture and history as well to what we were promoting. Some of those facilities weren't initially opened when the restart happened, but that did come on stream eventually. And we focused on some niche categories: golf, motorcycling, boating, and fishing. From a creative standpoint, with our messaging, because most people had been here before, we needed just to remind them they've got this world-class destination that is right in their backyard, appeal to their pent-up demand, being locked down for about 12 weeks, and then focus on the safety message as well, because that was something that was very important to them. And this is just an example of a digital ad that we would have run. The open road is calling. It's time to answer. Plan your safe escape. And this basically breaks down the tactics that we use throughout our marketing plan along the different decision paths. So if they're dreaming where they might go for a getaway or a vacation, we use certain tactics. Then when they get into specifically planning and then booking and then experience, the tactics changed. For our region, it was very heavily focused on digital marketing. And as well, we did a fair bit of content promotion. We saw this as an opportunity to promote some of the hidden gems of the island and some of the lesser visited places. So everybody knows the Cabot Trail, but they may not know Ilmadam, for example. And so we did a fair bit of bringing influencers to places like Ilmadam, and also developing some content for there. We also did some TV advertising and produced a map. And I just wanted to acknowledge that Tourism Nova Scotia, we had a partnership with them that worked very well. And what we did, we tried to complement what they were doing at a provincial strategy. So that's what we did. The results. This is our website traffic from the time we started our recovery kind of campaign within the region from June 15th up until yesterday. And as you can see, we had tremendous growth this year in terms of the website traffic from within the region, from Nova Scotia to Brunswick and PEI. Overall, it was about 225% increase in traffic. And the other thing that we saw is that there was almost 300% increase in leads or clicks from our website out to tourism operators' websites. So when we see that happening, that's a signal that people are serious about planning where they're going to go. So that was a really good sign for us. So the campaign was working well, driving a lot of traffic, and we're putting our best foot forward for the industry. Just in terms of how that translated on the ground, this just shows you a month-by-month comparison. Up to August, we only have the data from Tourism Nova Scotia up to August for the room nights sold. But in winter, we were actually on track to have a year that was about on par, maybe a little bit down from last year. The previous year, we hosted Scotty's Tournament of Hearts in February in Sydney, and that provided a big boost to our room night numbers that month. So, but we're probably about on par, and then COVID hit. And then, of course, the spring was down tremendously. And the summer, we actually told operators, based on what experts were saying, to plan for a 70% decline. And in terms of room nights sold, we can see that we had a 61% decline. So a little bit better, but still not great for sure. And overall for the year, we were down 60% from January to August. So everything we did seemed to be working in terms of a marketing standpoint, but it just, at the end of the day, it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. And the impact that this had on tourism operators, well, there were some, they would be a minority, but there were some that said that they had a good season. For example, many operators that have cottages, cabins, glamping facilities. We have a few operators on the island that have geodesic domes, and they actually had decent seasons. And in some cases with those dome operators, they said that they were pretty much sold out for the whole season. And some outdoor operators as well did very well. A lot of people were looking to get outside and do things like going kayaking. I know there's the new outdoor operation opened up in Shetticamp with jet ski rentals, and I haven't been talking to them, but I've heard that they were fairly busy in the summer. We had some operators that were holding their own, some restaurants. They had reduced capacity, of course, in their facilities, but did decent business, particularly on weekends. As I mentioned, with a lot of the people within the region, they would be looking at doing weekend getaways. So maybe from Monday to Wednesday, it was a little bit slower, but Thursday to Sunday, it picked up. So I was in Shetticamp in late August, and and you know, it was very busy. I couldn't get into Labrie to have a meal there, but did get in somewhere. I've heard from some folks around the Cabot Trail that the last few weekends were absolutely crazy in terms of the traffic, and there were wait lines. So anyway, there was a lot of people, it seems, on the weekends in October, especially with the fall colors, going to check them out. Golf courses, we heard that they were holding their own, but then the bulk of our industry was really struggling. Our larger accommodations, hotels, motels, inns, and should have added bed and breakfasts. Also, that they really struggled this year. Some accommodation operators told us they were down 85 to 90%. Some bed and breakfast operators said that they hardly saw a person the whole season. So really difficult for some of those operators. Some of our culture and heritage experiences as well. Some weren't able to open at all. Some they were able to open, but a very limited capacity, and so it was a struggle for them. And we also heard some of our retailers, craft and gift shops, and there's the one I can't remember the name, in Petite Tang, with the hook rugs there. Maurice and Jeannot, you would know who I'm talking about. They were in the media, and they really struggled. So anyway, that there were cases like that we were certainly hearing. So in terms of how we did with the season, a mixed story, but largely it was very, very difficult. So looking ahead to 2021, I try to be an optimist, and I'm hoping that we're going to see better things happening. We have been making the case that more government support is needed. The loss of peak season revenues, especially for seasonal businesses who really rely on what they make in the peak season to sustain them throughout the winter, when they still have to pay some of the bills over those months. So that was not the same as what it would have normally been, actually nowhere near. So, in many cases, they were able to manage things and keep their costs low. But it's just that you can't really replace those peak season revenues. So there have been some things announced. We were really happy to see the extension of the wage subsidy into 2021. Still waiting to hear what the details of that are going to be, but that's encouraging. The recent announcement that more money has been placed into the RRF program. They need a better name for that. That ACOA administers. That's hopefully going to be a helpful thing. The Canadian Emergency Business Account, that 40,000 line of credit was extended to 60,000, and another 10,000 could be forgivable. So those things may be able to benefit some operators. I haven't had a chance to talk to a lot of operators since that has been announced, but I think a little bit more investigation is needed to understand if that is going to be meeting the needs of those operators. And ACOA here in the local office has been in touch with me just to provide feedback up to their head office in terms of what we're hearing in terms of the type of support that would be the most helpful to operators. So they're listening, I think, and trying to formulate that program so that it does address the loss of those peak season revenues. And the other thing that's needed is we need the federal government really to take care of the seasonal employees to ensure that if they didn't get called back to work for the season, that they can get their EI benefits that will hold them over until hopefully next year when they will get called back. So that's part of it. We will be we are just going out to operators very shortly, actually, to ask them to sign up for our winter campaign. We've been doing that for the past 5 years. And specifically, it would be trying to drive visitation to the Cape Breton Highlands. That's where most of our winter activity happens. So that's something that we have only, up to date this point, we've only promoted that to the regional market anyway. So that will be something that we continue and can do within the bubble. We're hopeful, and I'll say this tentatively, that we're hopeful that for next year, our main tourism season from May to October, that we will be able to open up to the rest of Canada. We know that opening up beyond that is probably a long shot, but hopefully, it doesn't look like it right now with the way cases are in the rest of Canada, but hopefully by the time May comes, it can be done. We are hearing that rapid testing, the COVID alert app has just been released for Nova Scotia. Hopefully more people are going to be using that, and it's really important. I know there's a lot of hesitation out there amongst our local residents to open up the bubble, and we would only advocate doing so if it is safe to do so. But seeing what we've seen from the numbers for this season, another season where we can't open up beyond the Maritimes, or Atlantic Canada, I should say, would be very, very difficult for our industry, and I would really fear that that many businesses would have a hard time surviving. And then we're going to try to begin to rebuild. We've been over the past year, pre-COVID, we started it, but have been completing it during COVID. We've been working on a 10-year strategy for Cape Breton Islands tourism industry, and that's something that we will look to launch in the new year. We've had to make adjustments based on this pandemic reality, but there's still a lot of opportunity that we can look forward to once we get on the other side of this pandemic. And as you would probably know if you're following the news, there are some positive things that sound like they're happening in terms of some vaccines and some other treatments that they say that at some point in 2021, we may see some of those roll out. So hopefully we can get back to closer to normal in 2022. But for 2021, we anticipate that it's going to be still challenging. We'll be opening up completely, but hopefully if things can be done safely, we can open up to the rest of the country. And that slide that I showed you where our visitors come from, the vast majority of our visitors come from Ontario, and a growing number. We've seen growth every year up to this year from Quebec for the past 5 years. Pre-COVID, we had a direct flight from Montreal to Sydney that the numbers were really good for that in 2019. So we saw a lot of potential for Ontario and Quebec, and just being able to open up to those markets again would be a huge help and bring a lot more visitors to Cape Breton Island. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm not sure if I covered everything that you wanted me to cover, Maurice, but I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has, and I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Terry. And I think, be it if you're in Cape Breton and Inverness, or in Richmond County, or if or the municipalities of Clare and Argyll, there's a lot of lessons to be learned. There's a lot of good things shared that are initiatives that we can certainly all take away. Again, thanks for sharing the insights regarding the impact of the current crisis, and additional insights on what potentially the future holds. And I think, again, it's critically important in these times that we support our local businesses. And now more than ever, we all have a role to play in ensuring success for the strength of our rural economies for the remainder of 2020 and into 2021. So let's look forward to a year of success through our support and through the resilience of our business owners. Alors, merci encore une fois, Terry, de nous faire part de ces réflexions sur l'impact de la crise actuelle et de ces réflexions sur ce que l'avenir pourra nous apporter. Une fois de plus, c'est essentiel dans ces temps de promouvoir et de supporter nos entreprises locales. Et aujourd'hui, plus que jamais, nous avons tous un rôle à jouer pour assurer le succès de nos économies rurales pour le reste de l'année 2020 et jusqu'en 2021. Et nous espérons que cette année sera une année de succès grâce à notre support et à la résilience et persévérance de nos entrepreneurs et nos propriétaires d'entreprises dans le domaine. I'd like to close off by sharing a Conseil de développement économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse project, which is a website called Visiter Nouvelle-Écosse to help people plan their staycations. So something for you to look at visiterne.ca, so in English, visitezne.ca. Alors, je vous partage un projet du Conseil de développement économique de la Nouvelle-Écosse, le site visiternouvelleécosse.ca. Alors, visiterne.ca. Allez le voir. Et je termine la session avec ça.